to get agreement, and I really hope that everybody will come to the table in good faith. That's what's going to be required here.
Well, that is going to be required, and it might not happen. Ask people on the Freedom Caucus are not very happy about this. That's more than 30 votes alone. Anna Paulina Luna could single-handedly derail this thing, threatening to shut down the government because the Senate will not pass a voter ID law. There are all kinds of factions in the House that are going to give Mike Johnson lots to stay up awake thinking about tonight. And it begins in a Rules Committee hearing, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. When we come back on the late edition, this will be a live ball. And I'm glad to say he's back from a freezing cold Orlando to join us in freezing cold Washington, America's dad. You got the family home safe and sound, I'm sure. Nathan Dean at Bloomberg Intelligence. How are you?
Good. No, thanks.
You did this freezing at Disney thing.
Yeah, people had blankets. It was great. Like waiting in line, people had blankets over themselves.
What is going on?
But my kids were like, "Can we have hot chocolate?" Like every hour, they were like, "Can we
the
have
hot chocolate?" Like, do you go? I mean, are people waiting in lines like normal, or did that cut down on the lines? I'm guessing
none of the locals were there. It was just all of us who had flown in from elsewhere, and we're like, it's 6 degrees back home. We can do this.
So it was still a warm up, I guess.
Yeah, but it wasn't much of a warm up. Florida's still cold.
Wow, amazing. Are they spraying down the oranges down there? Should I be buying frozen orange juice futures like trading places?
I think that's a good question for Mike McGlone from Miami when he comes on.
He's going to be on here just a little bit. We have to talk about Bitcoin. So, yeah, we got to talk about what's happening here because we thought this was fixed. Last week, it seemed like everybody was on the same page. Well, maybe the week before that. Then Minneapolis happened. Then it got to be a little more complicated. Once the president posted, though, that he had to deal with Democrats, it seemed like the fix was in place. Now suddenly it's looking a lot more complicated. I did my best to set the table for all of this. Are you running odds on reopening? What do we even call this right now?
No, we're not running odds just because the general consensus, which we believe in, is that the government is going to reopen tomorrow. Or Wednesday or sometime this week. I do. Because look, I don't see where, the House, look, let me back up.
Yeah.
This deal was between the White House and the Senate. It got through the Senate. Senate goes to jam, the House on this.
Right.
House says, look, we're not going to bring back people until Monday. And now people are giving back. And lawmakers in the House are saying, rightfully so, they're like, look, well, if the Senate gets to change the deal, I get to change the deal. And this is just, we've seen time and time again that House lawmakers come back and they say, look, I want to vote on this. I want to vote on that.
Yep.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, when, we'll have one of those House Rules Committees that are going to be it's going to be great for us Washington watchers.
So they're going to beat each other up tonight.
They're going to beat each other up tonight. But I think at the end of the day, because of what happened in Texas this weekend in that state Senate seat where it went from a 17-plus district to a 14-plus Dem district,
yes.
The Republicans are looking at this and saying, look, we need to get back to core messaging. And the Democrats are looking and saying, look, we are actually doing well at the moment right now. Let's not change things or actually alter that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think leadership on both parties are going to let their folks come through and they'll raise objections. But ultimately, I think the House is going to pass this. And then we'll fight this again in 2 weeks with the DHS over this partial government shutdown.
Is that what we call this? I keep hearing it's a super short shutdown. It's a short shutdown. It's a mini shutdown. Look, if we keep getting CRs on Homeland Security, I don't know what we're going to call this thing, but you're referring to Christian Menifee, right, in Texas. Texas Democrat cut Mike Johnson's margin of error to a single vote. You still think he can get this through, though, with the Freedom Caucus, Anna Paulina Luna, all the rest?
Well, I don't think look, we're going to have to talk about the Hastert rule.
Yep.
The Hastert rule says is that you don't bring something to the floor unless the majority of your caucus supports it. He's going to have to break that. Because, well, maybe not break it, but he's going to have to actually deal with a lot of Republican lawmakers saying, I'm not going to support this.
Okay.
Now you need Democrats. The Democrats are looking at this and they're saying, look, we're not going to give you a lifeline on this. We're going to make you squirm.
Right.
But then ultimately you did see statements from like Representative Hoyer, Representative Clyburn, sort of saying, look, we need to deal with this because let's also just take ICE out of the equation of DHS. What else do you have? Well, you have FEMA. You have the Coast Guard, and you have the TSA. As somebody who just flew through an airport yesterday, when I told my wife that there was a government shutdown, the first thing in her mind was, is TSA going to be operating?
Yeah.
And so, the American people...
Are they working without paychecks right now? Or they'd have to wait another couple of weeks. But technically, their pay is impacted by
That's right. Right now, they would get their next paycheck, miss their first paycheck in 2 weeks, or whenever the paycheck is. But where I'm going with this is that, it's an election year. And Congress is, one of the big messages that we're telling our clients right now is we have a Congress that is a governing Congress. Now, look, we can have arguments of what the definition of governing is,
Yes, we can.
but it's transitioning to a campaigning Congress. And as you know, a campaigning Congress in election year is a much different beast. And they're transitioning right now. And so as we move through this shutdown, they're going to be thinking more and more about the midterms, and that is going to change behavior to the fact of getting deals done. So the point is that if you're on the Democratic side, you don't alter this trajectory of what the momentum is, and on the Republican side, you're trying to stop this momentum and get back to messaging.
Two important things here. I mentioned Christian Menefee. This is the representative-elect, is on an airplane right now coming to Washington. First stop is here on this set on the way to being sworn in. We're going to have a conversation with the Democrat from Texas in just about 45 minutes from now here. Second one, you saw this coming. BLS, no jobs report Friday.
Yep.
This is official now. Does the market start to care again?
Well, look, anytime you're going to tell a market, when it comes to a government shutdown, most market impacts, they really aren't there. Even for contractors, they're not really there.
Yeah.
But for reports, they are there. And as we saw in the shutdown last year, a lot of traders were not happy about this lack of data out there. And this is just another consequence of a shutdown. Now, I think looking forward, though, the good news is that I still think a government is going to reopen this week, and that would fund us through the rest of the fiscal year. That would take us through September 30th. There's not going to be a shutdown. I'll just say it right now. I don't think that there's going to be there's probably a 10% chance of a shutdown 1 month before the election.
Sure.
Which means that if you're looking at jobs data and you're looking at reports, you at least have enough data, I think, to get you through the rest of this year.
Okay, that's helpful. Then we get the 2-week CR to figure out Homeland Security. John Thune says might need another one and another one after that. Or is this 2-week time period simply too aggressive?
I think it is. I think Senator Thune is probably right.
Yeah.
I think you probably are going to need another continuing
Dems will
resolution.
love that.
Well, I mean, look, the question is that how much leverage do the Democrats have right now? And look, they are united. But $75 billion worth of ICE funding came from the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they can see through fiscal year 2029.
There you go.
This is an argument about other things.
Great story on the terminal, by the way. They're spending that money on warehouses around the country that'll be turned into detention centers for those apprehended by ICE. It's a great story on the terminal. In the meantime, we have Nathan Dean to point the way. Welcome back to town. I'm glad everybody's warm. It is freezing here in the capital. It's not just you. I'm Joe Matthew. We'll turn to Bitcoin next with Mike McGlone.